Hello, everyone. Welcome to another riveting edition of Public Speaking. I will be your host, Sophia Godfrey, and welcome to week 2 of our hybrid class. I hope everything is starting to kind of make sense. You're understanding the flow of how we do things. Um, I know last class we talked about how our demo speech is coming up, so do not fret. We will get into that. But just reminders, right? Last week, we introduced public speaking a little in our lecture. Um, we talked about managing nervousness. We had 2 quizzes over that. And then in person, we did our in-class challenges where we got to know our fellow classmates a little more, which is super important because in your speeches, right, the whole point of this class is that you are practicing. Like, this isn't where you're exhibiting your, like, we're not at the national public speaking competition, Olympics, whatever. This is where you are practicing, so all of us getting comfortable with each other and knowing more about each other is very important. And then also, getting to know each other will also help with your audience analysis, which we will get into for week 3's lecture. So I'll stop yapping and we shall get into our lecture for the day. So today's agenda is I'm going to talk about organizing and outlining your speech, and then we'll go over visual aids, which is very important since your demo speech is very visual aid heavy. And then I'll assign the demo speech. I'm going to go into everything you need to know, look at the rubric. Um, so you have everything you need to start getting that done. Okay, well, let's get into organizing our presentations and outlining. Um, so with outlining, this is a little example on the right. It's mostly correct. The intro is missing audience analysis, and there's some things I don't like how it's phrased or ordered. Um, your one should be updated and ready to go. Anyways, we'll talk about that later though. But this is kind of what your outline is going to look like. If you've ever written a paper and you had to write an outline, I know when I was in school, I'd have to do an outline, submit that, get feedback on my outline, and before I would write the paper. This is exactly the same, except this is your final product. I am not looking for someone, I'm not looking for you to write out verbatim your speech. I just don't think it's necessarily effective. You're not going to memorize it. I think if you're one of those people, you totally can. If you're someone who likes to plan and you kind of want to know what you're going to say, um, I just think this is the best to speak the most extemporaneously, and we'll get more into that. But, right, so you're outlining, it's just a written plan, right? It has these different symbols, it shows you the order, it emphasizes importance and what you're going to say in your speech. It shows, again, the sequence of your argument or your main points, the step 1, step 2, step 3. That's just for your demo speech because they're in steps, but step 1, step 2, step 3, those are what your main points are. Um, for this, right, maximum, you'll have 1 to 2 sentences for each little thing. That's max. Some of these might just be 1 word, and that's completely fine. Like your main points, maybe 1 word, 2 words. I would say 2 sentences max for any of these would be key. Um, but again, right, this is not your whole speech verbatim. Okay. Now that we've gone into what your outline is, what it's going to look like, let's go into how you're going to break it down, how you're going to fill this out. So we're going to start with the body of your speech because you can't really do an intro or conclusion if you really don't know what it is you're talking about, what are your main points, right? So doing the body first is going to be key. So this is right, the largest portion of the speech where you place your arguments, ideas, examples, narratives, facts, etc. And this is broken down into main points and subpoints. So your main points are these, right? The big numbers here, the 1, the 2, the 3. Those are your main points. Your subpoints are under each main point. Make sense? Basically, this is just helping you, your body is just deciding what information is the most important about your topic. What does your audience need to know? I know I have problems with this. As you can tell, some of our lectures are so long for no reason, and I'm getting better at it. I'm gonna get better. Um, but I struggle sometimes with only giving you what you need to know instead of everything, right? Sometimes I'm like, but everything's important. It's not, right? Give us the summarized version, the nitty-gritty, exactly what we need to know to accomplish whatever you're teaching us in this sense. Okay, let's break that down even further. So, when creating your main points, you want to go to your specific purpose and central idea. Your specific purpose is basically like what is your goal? What are you trying to do? So this will always be like to inform, to persuade. Your specific purpose will always say like to inform my audience to blank, right? For yours, for demo speech will be to inform my audience how to make an origami swan, right? Boom. Specific purpose. Your central idea is like if you took your central idea is also going to be kind of like your thesis, but it's if you were to sum up your speech in one sentence, what would that be? Right? So for this, right, their purpose is to persuade my audience to eat fish frequently. And then their central idea is eating fish at least 3 times a week is beneficial to both brain and heart. So if this is your main idea, your central idea, you use these to then create your main points. So then, right, because this is my central idea, my main point could be eating fish improves the brain's ability to concentrate and remember. And then my second main point, eating fish reduces the risk of developing heart disease. Make sense? If I didn't bring up how it was beneficial to the brain and the heart, these main points wouldn't make sense. So using this to come off of that, for your demo speech, it's going to look a little different. It's going to be a lot more simple than kind of this one, which is obviously a persuasive speech. Um, but this gives you the idea, especially moving on to, when we do our informative speech and our persuasive speech. And then under our main points, these are our subpoints, right? These are our examples. These are our definitions, our statistics, our images, right? So these subpoints are just your support material. Make sense? So this is everything that helps support this main point. So how many do you need, right? In the outline, I just have 3. But truly, it is quality over quantity. This is just a guide. This is just to like help you like build out your argument. You can add, right? I would say every speech should be, 2 to 5 main points, just so it's not too much. For your demo speech, will probably be more than 5 points because it's like there are a lot of steps depending on how you break it down. Um, but then again, these subpoints here will tell you where you need to build your argument more, right? So, say in an informative speech or persuasive speech, this one is fully built out. You have 3 subpoints, you have all the support in there. And then same with this, 3 subpoints, fully built out, has support, where here you have one. Well, then that tells you that you need to do research on step 2, that you need to build more of an argument. And if you research and you really cannot find anything to add, then that's an indicator that maybe your main point is not very strong and you need to take it a different direction. Again, that will be more for informative, persuasive. So, where your demo speech, it will be a lot more uh, this for your demo speech, it will definitely be more of an indicator of time. How much time this part will take, how much time will this, so you can gauge, and see what you need to take away or add to make that time limit. Okay, we talked about how to create our main points, how to create subpoints, what that looks like. Okay, for your main points, we already kind of got into it a little, but limiting the number of your main points, again, like I said, 2 to 5 is probably what we're looking at. I think 3 will always, always, always be like, I don't know why. It's just like your English papers are always 3 main paragraphs. It just feels more satisfying having 3. It feels like you've done the research, you have enough support when you have those 3. So, my recommended pass your demo speech and your pitch, like your info and your persuasive, having 3 is key. That's just my thoughts on that. Next is restrict each main point to a single idea. So, for example, right, driverless cars can be used to deliver food to people with disabilities, and they can reduce drunk driving accidents. Okay, as one main point, that's a lot. What we'd want to do is break it down into this. Main point 1. Driverless cars can be used to deliver food to people with disabilities. Main point 2. Driverless cars can reduce drunk driving accidents, right? Don't see how much longer this is too. Like I was saying, keep it short, sweet, concise in your outline, right? Don't have that and. Break it down as much as you can. Next, avoid announcements. So, I'm not even joking. This is this is one of the examples in the textbook. The textbook. I don't know if yours, I think for my other class, their textbook it is. But so just being like for a main point, be like, oh, I'm gonna talk about hot dogs. Okay. What about hot dogs? What's the point? What are you getting at, right? So maybe a main point would be then like sodium nitrates in hot dogs cause health issues for many people, right? Boom, main point. Next is customizing the points for each audience. This will be a lot more clear when we talk about your audience analysis next week. But just to kind of give a brief rundown, right? If depending on your audience, you can have the same topic, right? The same purpose, the same idea, the same goal. But depending on the audience you have, it changes your argument, it changes your main points. Like say I was trying to persuade an audience about like getting into photography and why and how to do that and why it's important and blah blah blah, right? So if I talked about photography maybe to y'all, at this point, I don't know your financial situation, but, when I was freshman, sophomore in college, you know, I was rolling pennies, as the girlies say. Um, did not have money to just go buy, you know, a camera, right? So maybe some of my points for y'all would be like, actually, it's really affordable. And I would share about different affordable ways to be a photographer or get a camera, blah, 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 right? And even make money off of it. Where if I talk to maybe in like an affluent, middle class, older, retired crew, that wouldn't be something that they're concerned about. So that main point would be totally like unnecessary and obsolete, right? And they like wouldn't care, right? So thinking about what your audience would need to hear again, this is kind of for your informative, persuasive crew, and pitch, but think about how your points change depending on your audience. Next and lastly is using your parallel language. So this is just kind of making each main point look like it's related to each other. Like, I don't know, it's just way more satisfying. Like saying, um, I'm today I'm going to teach you about why swimming is important because it swimming reduces nervous tension, swimming does not typically cause muscle and bone injuries, and lastly, swimming builds endurance. Like it pulls them all together and it really helps us remember as an audience. Remember, your audience does not have captions. Your audience or captions for you, right? Your like audience doesn't have a full like sheet on everything you're going to say. So you need to make it as simple as possible for your audience to understand, to follow along, right? Because we all kind of learn differently. And some of us, I mean, I even struggle with like just listening and taking information from that. So when thinking about creating your main points, remember these and use those as a guide. Okay. And we're not done with the body yet. We're not done yet. But some organizational patterns, right? So this is how those main points change, different patterns to use. So for our demo speech, we're using chronological. So these are in order. So first you do step 1, then step 2, then step 3, and then finally step 4, right? You have to go in that order. You can't change the order or it wouldn't make sense. Obviously, this is to inform. Next is cause and effect. So this is a speech that explains an event or problem and then discusses its consequences or results. Again, this is to inform. So think of like maybe like a historical event. So you can bring up a problem, you could bring up an event, but you're just showing everything that happened, right? Like, say I brought up like the JFK assassination, right? I'm going to tell you the event, what happened, what's going on, and the consequences, the aftermath, the results, what happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to tell you what I think really happened, like get into conspiracy things, out of my opinion. I'm telling you everything you need to know to understand this. But I'm only informing you. I'm totally unbiased. There's no opinion. Then problem solution, right? Describe an issue and then propose a solution. So, right, you describe your issue in your intro, your topic, and then your solutions or your solution and the step to get to those solution, however you do it, would be your main points. This again is to persuade, this is bias. And then lastly, topical. This is your most versatile. This is when you divide into components or categories using logic and common sense. This is both informative and persuasive. And I think an easy way to think of topical is if it's not these three, it's most likely topical, right? Topical is your easiest, right? It's just categories, it's components, they go together in some way. Hard to explain out loud, but um yes. So those are the different organizational patterns. Our pitch one isn't up here because it is very um unique, but we when we get there, your pitch speech will 1000%. We will have a whole week of just learning the Monroe's motivated sequence. Um, but this is just different patterns that fit this particular outline, if that makes sense. Okay, now that we've learned about some organizational patterns that we'll be going throughout the semester, let's get into our transitions and signposting under the body of our paragraph. So basically these are, okay, I want you to imagine, like I said, your audience doesn't have captions for you. We don't have exactly what you're going to say. So these are your best friend. Imagine you are grabbing your audience's hand and you're saying, this is what we're going to do and this is where we're going, right? This is first, it like maps out. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. It maps out where you're going in your speech, right? So the transitions are the bridge between the sections of a message that help a presenter verbally move from one idea to another. These also are helping your speech not be choppy, which is something I'm looking for. These are in between, right? From the intro to step one, you have a transition. From your main point one to main point two, you have a transition. Between each thing, you have a transition. This example, I think, is a really good template to have and to hold. I think the more we go through these speeches, the more creative you could kind of be with it. But I think the standard right now is to just do this to begin with, right? Now that I have blank or introduce my topic, let's get into blank or my first point. And you could do that with each one. Now that I have shown you my first point, now let's get into my second point. Boom. And you can even add stuff. So say origami swan, right? Now that I have shown you what paper to use, or now that we have selected our paper, now let's get into our first fold. Boom, right? I'm showing you what we just talked about and where we're going. Next is signposting. So this goes hand in hand with the transitions. This is more of like a one to two word type of thing. It's just signaling to your audience where you're going. So this is things like first, secondly, lastly, finally, in conclusion, to wrap up, to move on, right? All those types of words, right? First, let's talk about picking the paper you want. Now that I have, or in conclusion, to wrap up, now that I've shown you how to pick paper, how to do your first fold, how to do your blah, blah, blah fold, and blah, 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 now you can, right? These, your best friends. I know, especially, right, there's transitions here, 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 here. These are not optional. In this, remember this is your practice space. it is going to sound silly. It is going to sound repetitive. It's going to feel repetitive. I don't care. Like, I want you to get used to this. And I'm asking everyone to do it, right? Think at this point, you are just trying to learn how to make a clear, concise message, argument, speech, and this is the way to do it. If remember, I'm listening to 11 or 12 of these in one sitting. My brain is going to be fried. You not having these transitions or signposts is going to make me so confused. Like, think of, if anything, if you're thinking about your audience, you're like, ugh, everyone else is going to think I sound stupid and I'm repetitive. Think of me. Think of me in the back grading these paper or grading your speeches after hearing, if you, especially if you're the last person, you make sure you are holding my hand and saying, Sophia, to make sure I get these points, I want you to know this is what I'm about to do. This is where we're going. Now that I've talked about this, now we're going here. You better handhold me through this whole thing. How you do that, hit those transitions, use those signposts. We're clear? Okay. Better be seeing those. Okay, now that we have built out those main points, those sub points, we know what patterns we're using, right? Use those transitions. Now let's get into our introduction. So your introduction, this is the order I want. So see how like this is missing stuff? This is what I want in your outline. The updated one should be downloaded. I'm gonna double check on that. But this is what I want. I want you to first gain attention, introduce your topic or your purpose of your speech, audience relevance, establish credibility, and then your thesis. So first, gaining attention, we will get into and break that down in a second, but these are some options, but we're about to go deeper into that. Next, your purpose and slash topic, right? What is the goal of this speech? What will the audience get out of it? What will you accomplish in your speech, right? What are you about to tell us about? Just preview your topic. Audience relevance. Why does your specific audience care? Why should they care? Thinking about everything you know about your audience, right? Think, what do we all have in common? We're all either freshmen or sophomores in college. We're all taking core classes. We all go to Lone Star. We're all community college students, right? We maybe are going to community college because we are working at the same time, because we want to save money, because we don't really know what we want to do, and Lone Star gives us that time. What about, and even deeper, right? Talking about like our, on Wednesday when we got to know each other better. A lot of us were into music, but, and we, right? Think about the needs of your audience, the things they care about, the things they struggle with. And you literally need to tell them to their face, hey, this is why you need to care. You need to point it out to them. Next, establishing credibility. So this is your experience, the research you've done, the education you have, the training you've done, right? Maybe if I was teaching you how to do a specific dance move of some sort, right? I would tap into my experience and my training. I would say, I am credible to talk to you or to teach you about this dance move because I have extensive dance training in jazz, tap, um, oh gosh, contemporary drill, pom for 6 years of my life. Um, and I've had multiple dance classes that I've gone over the years, blah, 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 right? Why are you credible to talk about this topic? Tell your audience. Next is your thesis. This is basically your thesis is your topic, boom, plus main point one, two, three, etc. So plus your main points. This is you literally telling your audience, what am I going to talk about? You're giving them the map of your speech beforehand. Okay? This is super, 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 super important. Like I said, remember, think of poor little me in the back listening to all these speeches. You better lay it out for me. Got it? Today I'm going to teach you how to um, bullet journal by first showing you, by first picking out a journal type, gathering materials, bee ba boo boo boo. That's your thesis. Got it? Okay, let's get deeper into gaining attention. I wanted to get deeper into this one because I think sometimes we struggle with that. We were kind of struggling a little bit when we were doing our mini speech on Wednesday. So I wanted some examples so you could see with your eyes, right? So some options to gain attention, that's asking questions, starting with the sound, um, your clothing choice. This could literally be like if you were gonna cook for us and you're wearing a chef's coat, right? That's gaining your interest because, you know, if you're standing up there in a chef's uniform, we're like, okay, wait, what's going on? What are they about to say? So that's an option, but I still need a out loud attention getter. Role play, you could have like a story like imagine blah 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 blah. A statistic slash fact. Tell a story slash narrative. I think this is the most powerful because we're just storytelling beings. So I think those are the most engaging and it really adds pizzazz to your story and credibility. A provocative statement, something that makes us kind of perk up, kind of think, and a quote by someone. This is important, or like this could be like really good if like you know your audience, everyone kind of loves someone, we all value someone's, opinions and viewpoints. That could help for sure. So our first example is I'm addicted to a drug. I've been addicted to it for many years now. I feel like I need it to make it through the day. If I don't get this drug, my head aches. I'm nervous, irritable, and I begin to tremble. It's true. I am addicted, right? I got your curiosity. Now I get into my topic. I'm addicted to caffeine. Most people don't realize that caffeine is a drug and that it is very addictive. It is present not only in coffee and tea and soft drinks, but also in many legal drugs such as weight control pills and pain relievers. Boom. Right? Got your attention with what? He's addicted, blah, 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 blah. Then he goes into his topic, his purpose, what he's going to get into for the day. A quote, right? This is easy, but, right? The American poet Maya Angelou once said, if you have only one smile in you, give it to the people you love. Don't be surly at home, then go out in the street and start grinning good morning at total strangers. So, starting with the quote. Another kind of provocative statement could be, I have seen a clone with my own eyes, and so have you. And then get into our topic. Richard, whatever his last name is, professor of biology at Harvard University, says that about 30 human genetic clones appear every day in the United States. You and I know them as identical twins. He says that identical twins are genetically more identical than a cloned organism is to its donor. Boom. We kind of have a statement that makes us like, what? What are they talking about? And it's almost like a very creative way to think about it. Both of these, right? They give caffeine as a drug that you're addicted to, even though it is, right? But we won't go there. They're framing it in like a different way that makes you think. Another thing is kind of like a rhetorical, question. So, with powerful radio signals being beamed into outer space at this very moment, is there any realistic chance that we human beings will establish radio contact with other civilizations in the universe during our lifetime? Right? You don't really mean for them to answer. But then there's also, right, the questions of like, anyone here has ever, um, written a paper before by a show of hands. The issue with that, especially when you're nervous, I've had tons of students like be like, by show of hands, who here has written a paper? Okay, cool. So they like don't even wait for them to answer, they just keep going. So if you're going to ask them a question and you want them to answer, you better give them time to answer, right? Don't just rush through. Then, talking about a story or narrative, this example I think is really great, right? A few years ago, my husband and I were sitting at a concert. About 45 minutes into the concert, I noticed my husband sweating profusely and he couldn't sit still. We decided to go to the emergency room to get him checked out. While sitting in the waiting room, he said he was hurting all over and his heart felt as if it were going to jump out of his chest. When he finally was examined by the doctors and nurses, they couldn't find anything, but they ran several tests. A few days later, the doctor called and diagnosed him with anxiety disorder, right? That story, it's just like, what's going on? What's happening? Then at the same time, it also could relate to other people in the audience. Like, oh, I've experienced that as well. Like, I can totally relate to that story. Also adds to your credibility of like, I know what's going on. I've been through it, right? So these are just a couple. These are not just the only, right? But I wanted to give you some options when making your speech, when trying to come up with a good attention getter. Okay, next is the conclusion, right? So the purpose of your conclusion to forewarn the audience that you're about to finish your speech. It reminds the audience of your thesis statement and the main points of your presentation. It specifies what the audience should think or do in response to your speech. And then it ends the speech in a manner that makes your audience members want to think and do as you recommend. So those are just fancy ways of saying this is what I want in my conclusion, right? First thing I want in the setup is a signpost slash transition that now I am in my conclusion. To wrap up, or now that I have talked about my last point, now let's get into our conclusion. Finally, we have come to the end of our steps, right? Signposting transitions, then get into reviewing what you talked about in your speech. Hit us with your thesis statement again. Topic plus your main points. Now that I've shown you how to boil an egg by showing you what pot to pick, how to boil your water, adding vinegar, waiting 10 minutes, putting it in an ice bath, then peeling, you now know how to make your boiled egg. Next is what has the audience taken away, or what is their call to action? What about your speech? What are they taking away? Literally tell them what they should be taking away from it. And these kind of mush together, right? I just kind of want to break it down so you can think about it, right? So this will most likely run into this memorable concluding statement. This will be like one sentence that goes into this. Your memorable concluding statement, think about like this is the last thing they are hearing from your speech. I should not be hearing, and that's all, or I'm done, or thanks. I want you to end, and it should be very obvious from your tone and delivery as well, but from the statement that you are done speaking to us and you left us with something powerful, emotional, something for us to do, or a takeaway, right? So, this is what I want in your conclusion, right? A transition, reviewing of your points, basically just restate your thesis. And then kind of that concluding statement. What has the audience taken away? What is their call to action? What are you leaving us with to conclude it, to wrap it up? And here are some options to making that memorable concluding statement. So this could also be a full circle. I think the most like think about our demo mini or our demo mini speech, our intro mini speech when we like wrapped around, like used that intro and conclusion and connected them together. I think those are the most effective when doing your speeches, and it kind of ties it up. It ties it up in this little bow that's like, wow, everything flowed and everything went together and was very thought out. Here are some options that you could do, right? So next week, the Bloodmobile, will be on campus. I call upon each of you to spend a few minutes donating your blood so that others may live. Dang, right? Call to action tells us where to go, what to do, but you say so that others may live. Dang, that's something to leave them with, right? That's powerful. Then you can leave off with a quote. Let me leave you with the words of Eleanor Roosevelt. It is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. Then, our last one, the simple task of writing a will can protect your family and give you a peace of mind. It is a sad fact that 3 out of 4 Americans will die without a will. Are you going to be one of them? I hope not. Why don't you write your will before you go to bed tonight? I don't love this, but I get it. It's a call to action. Honestly, part of me is like, what would be super powerful is like if you taught us how to write a will, right? You said this, right? Which is kind of like, what are they taking away from it? Things to think about. Say, are you going to be one of them? I sure hope not. And then, boom, you're done. But this does have a call to action. So, those are just some options. Sorry, guys. I promise that's so bold of me to promise because I'm not God. I can't control this, but one day there will be no mucus in my body. But I'm doing a lot more better, a lot more better, a lot better than I was on Wednesday. So hopefully by next Wednesday, we're gonna be killing it. Dry, no mucus in sight anywhere. Okay, now that we have talked about organizing, outlining our speech, I told you exactly what I wanted from you. Let's get into our visual presentations. I was debating whether, the thing is, visual presentations, this is a short part, so I won't break it down into 2 videos. Okay. Our demo speech, highly, highly, highly visual. So this is important. It's very clear. It's clear to the point. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this is just what you can use, why we're using them, and tips to effectively use them. So obviously, visuals, items that can be seen by your audience for the purpose of reinforcing a message. So this can be graphs, tables, drawings, photos, video, animation, objects, models, yourself, volunteers, and PowerPoint and slideshows. I think this is super cool, but research has shown that the visuals help your audience remember what you said in your speech. So if you could see this, right, the green is information they retain 3 hours later, and this is information retained or they remembered 3 days later. So this is spoken only, no visuals. This is only visuals. And then this is that together, right? It literally tripled. That's insane. So see how effective using visuals alongside your speech can really, really just like add to the memory of a message, which is awesome. Because the whole point is you want people to remember what you got to say. If they're not remembering it, why you even standing up there? So then I just want to show you this chart, basically showing these pros and cons of each type of visual, right? So, say for people, right? Advantages can add realism, can increase audience members' attention. Disadvantages can be unpredictable, can make time management more difficult, especially if there's a lack of planning and practice, right? See, each thing here has an advantage and a disadvantage. So there is no perfect visual aid for your speech. What I want you to think about, especially when you are thinking about, okay, what visuals am I going to use? What's most effective? Use the same idea. Think about what are the advantages of each? What are the disadvantages of each? And what is the best fit, right? There's always going to be a pro, there's always going to be a con, but for your specific speech, your audience, our environment in the classroom, what is the most effective and what will be the most helpful with reinforcing your message? So lastly, with our visuals, here are some tips. This I want you to, if you haven't been writing things down, this for sure is something I want you to write down because we will be um using this and referring to it on Wednesday for our in-class challenge. So tips when using visual aids. Do not talk to the visual aid, right? Eye contact should be on your audience. See, it's so hard doing this without you seeing me. I guess I could show you guys, but I'll be very honest, I'm sitting in bed while teaching you. So I hope y'all are also in bed writing some notes. But anyways, um, don't talk to the visual aid. Make that eye contact with your audience constantly. Next, display or grab them only when you are using them. So if I'm on step one, I'm grabbing the item for step one, right? Say I'm in my intro or my conclusion and I'm still holding one of my visuals, that's super distracting, right? All of our eyes are on that visual. We're not focused on what you're saying to us. Specific, like in terms of if it's not related to what you're saying. Does that make sense? If in your intro you have, oh gosh, I just blank out on if you have a spatula in your hand while doing your intro, right? That doesn't make sense. It's distracting. Next is make sure everyone in the room can see your visual aid. When we're nervous, we're kind of want to hold things close to us and near. I want you to make sure you raise that puppy up. They can see all of it. You're out using your arms, outstretching them, right? Um, Also, a thing to think about is I will have a desk, right, for your visuals to place on there. I don't want you to leave something on the table and be like, oh, look, and just point at it. I want you to lift it up, off, up, up, and make sure everyone can see it, right? Next is leave your visual aid in front of your audience long enough to complete a simulation. Basically, like think of a PowerPoint. Like if I'm in the middle of talking about this. If I just went like that, but I'm still talking about this point, you're gonna be like, whoa, 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 right? It's gonna be distracting. It's gonna trail your audience off of your message, off of their thinking and listening train of thought. Leave it up there so we kind of understand it, we sit with it, right? We know what you're talking about. Lastly, this is especially if you're using a PowerPoint, use a pointer or your arm closest to your visual aid for pointing to specific points of interest. So say, like, think about me when I'm presenting to y'all my PowerPoint, right? I'm gonna use the arm closest to the board to point. So then my chest is facing y'all as much as possible. If I use my other arm, then I'm putting my back to y'all, my audience, and delivery wise, that is, I'm closing myself off. I'm not being effective, right? As the audience, you want to make sure they see, just always think chest out to the audience, right? Not side, not your back, chest out. Make sense? Again, these are super important. We will be using these in our in-class challenge, so make sure these are written down and they are somewhere you can bring to class. Okay, crew, we have gotten through our lecture. I will be honest, I'm scared to see what time we're at, because Miss Yapper Queen here can't handle it sometimes, but I promise I will get better. Um, but now let's get into assigning your demo speech. Oh, shoot. Let's see if this works. Oh, okay. I'm logged into my other thing, but on Zoom, you have to like make it clear, like these are the web pages to share. And if I don't share them, then they won't pop up. Okay. So let's get into okay, we're on our class. Hit that demo speech. Boom. Okay, everything should be updated and good to go. Okay. So we went over this a little bit when we talked about the syllabus, but this is our how-to speech. You were showing us in steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, how to accomplish something, right? The goal of this speech is for you to demonstrate how to do something to an audience that is clear and concise, right? When choosing topics, I will say this over and over again, choose something you know. Don't choose something that you're like, I think this might be good. No, no, no. Think about your majors, your hobbies, jobs, things you know how to do, and teach us about it, right? If you are doing something you know, the nervousness won't affect you as much. If you're doing something completely different that you're like, oh gosh, like I've never done an origami swan, then your nervousness is not going to be helpful in this scenario, right? I also want to make sure this is appropriate for your audience, right? We are college students, right? I don't need us talking about cooking ramen or making a cup of coffee or tying a shoe, right? I want something more intricate, something that you could go deeper into, right? Um, examples, right? How to change a tire, how to make the perfect steak, how to fold a napkin swan. Any topic with the multiple chronological steps is exactly what I want. Think of a how it's made episode where you're like, okay, first, I always think about the Dippin' Dots episode, if you could see where my brain always goes, but first you do this, then this happens, then this, and finally this, right? It's going to be highly visual, a lot of visual aids. I expect to see props that help show each step of your process. And yeah, so that is the gist. It's going to be 3 to 5.5 minutes. Um, this super important. I will say, especially for this speech, you are going to hit 3 minutes. Your issue is going to be staying below 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I know it sounds crazy, but I promise you that is what you are going to run into. Then visual aids, just use your noggin, right? Don't bring a katana. Anything that you think if you were caught holding it in the middle of class, if you would get reported, don't bring it. If you're questionable about it, ask, but outside of if people would report you, I think we're good, right? I expect y'all to use note cards. So this, you could bring 3 to 5 note cards, but if you read directly off your note cards, right, this is an immediate C grade, right? Your delivery won't be there if you're reading directly off your note cards. So just something to think about. For your note cards, I mean, just some advice. If I think if you have 3 main points, doing 5 note cards might be the way to go, especially starting out. Have one note card for your intro, one note card for step one for step two, one for step three, and then one note card for conclusion. And I want you to only use the front of your note card. I say this because using the back of your note card, it's easy to get confused. It's easy to get them out of order. And I don't want you to mess up because of your note cards. Your note cards are there to help you and not to hurt you. So make sure these are front-sided. Actually, I'm going to write that in here right now. So there is no confusions on it. Okay, and like we just talked about, outlining, this will be due. So every speech is going to have an outline and you will need to submit it on D2L. There should be an option under this for, I just can't see it for y'all. It says there's submissions. So these will be due at 9 a.m. before each speech. If you do not have an outline, you cannot do your speech, right? I need to see it. Like, I will pull this up as you are speaking. Got it? Perfect. Okay. Under here we have some things to look through. Oh gosh, hopefully this works. Let's see. Oh, it did. Yay. Okay. Boo. Wait. Oh, oh God. Okay, okay. Killed it. Anyways, so under here I have an example of a demo outline of uh how to eat a mango. So if you are like stuck and you need or you're a very visual person, I know I am, this can give you an idea of where to go, what to do, right? Oh gosh, this is blocking the way, so I can't close this. Okay, and then here is your demo outline template. Okay, see, this is not what I want. Remember, we want attention getter, then we want, ugh, it's not letting me. But anyways, remember I said I wanted audience or attention getter, topic introduce, audience relevance, establish credibility, and then thesis. If you forgot about that, go back to the body or the intro section and that will be clear. But that's what I want. That's the only changes you need to do. But here's your template. This is correct. Chronological organizational pattern and then general purpose to inform. Look how sweet I was. I filled it out for you. And then here's your specific purpose. It says what it is. Central idea says what that is too. Make sense? Ye to the freaking huh. Okay. So those are your sources. And then let's look at your rubric. Okay. Here is your rubric. This is literally the way I've set up this rubric is that I'm just basically like circling this, yes, no, very clear. So I've broken down elements that are important. For your demo speech, it's not as built out the way that your persuasive speech will be, right? Because we are working with limited knowledge, right? I don't expect you to have 14 weeks worth of information on week 3, right? So for each speech, we are going to have emphasized skills. So these are things I want you to focus most on and kind of not perfect. I don't want to say that, right? But because we're just practicing, but something I want you to practice and think hard about when it comes to this speech. So for this speech, and we'll get into this next lecture about audience centeredness. This is going to be your audience relevance in your intro, how you built that out. The topic you chose, does it make sense with your speech? How you concluded, right? Your call to action, your memorable statement. Um, what did they get from it, right? That's what I'm going to be analyzing with audience centeredness. And next is visual aids. We just talked about that. And we'll practice those skills in our in-class challenge. But how you use the visual aids, what visual aids you used, how effective was it? Did it harm your delivery? Or did it help us remember your message more? That will be what I'm looking for. Okay, and going down through this, right? Did you have an attention getter? Yes or no? Did you introduce you did the introduction function to stimulate interest and prepare the audience, right? Audience relevance, uh, thesis with preview of points. Yes, kind of. Maybe you missed a few things, or no. Intro and conclusion distinct from body. Did you use those transitions and signposting? Conclusion reinforce message and that's not the word I wanted, but offers closure. Yes, kind of no. Did you use a transition? Did you review the topic, the main points again? Did you have a closing statement? Yes, kind of or no. Did you use step 1, step 2, step 3 pattern? Were they framed, parts of the process framed memorably? Were your steps divided in, and also think of the, what did I call it? Um, Hold on, I want to make sure you know what I'm talking about. Where's our main points? Oh, where is it? Where is it? There. Parallel language, right? Using this swimming, 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 that's a example of having memorable main points, right? Oh gosh, will we be able to get back to it? Because this is in our way. Oh, we got it. Boom. There we go. Um, or there we go. This is also kind of that idea of like all of us know, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle, right? They all have the R's. They're memorable. It's this process. Same with stop, drop, roll, right? Can you break down your process to be something that is easy for us to remember? Process presented with appropriate detail and clarity with vivid and clear and appropriate language. Basically, did you tell us everything we needed to know how to do whatever topic you're teaching us about? Did you explain it enough? But was it also clear? Was it concise? Was it confusing? Did you ramble, right? That's what we're looking at. Delivery, body, eyes, face, gestures, posture. How effective were those? Your voice, range, that should be range. Rage, that's funny. Volume, quality, articulation. Extemporaneous delivery. Did it sound like you memorized it? Did you sound kind of monotone? Was it very, what I'm looking for is a very natural conversational style talking. The way I present to y'all, that's what I want. Delivery choices aligned with intended purpose. Um, this goes with visuals as well as movements you use, gestures you use. Did they align with what you were saying, right? Did they make sense? And then topic appropriate for your audience or your assignment. Yes or no, right? Did I approve it? Um, was it unique? Was it more than just how to tie a shoe, right? And this will be subtracting. I need to do the math on it. I believe it'll be like minus 15 points. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. Minus 15. But in time, right? This is a big deal, right? You can't just talk for 10 minutes and expect your audience to stay with you. There's a reason I have this also because we have a short amount of time and I want to make sure I get through everyone. So if you go under or over 3 to 5.5 minutes, that's minus 15 points. So just keep that in mind. And it's out of 100 points. So that one will be easy. As we go through, it'll go up 50. So our next speech will be 150, then 200, and etc. But yep, so that is your demo speech. Let me make sure we have everything. Okay, we went through all of this. Ooh, what I did want to go over is a little out of class challenge that I actually wanted to let you know about is I'm going to call it the topic brainstorming topic sheet. So right now, whether it's a Google Doc, a piece of paper, something you will hold on to and you could bring to class on Wednesday, I want you to jot down these categories: work experience, past and present, special skills or knowledge, pastimes, hobby, sports, recreation, travel, unusual experiences, school interests, and concerns or beliefs. I want you to set a timer 15 minutes, and write as many as you can, right? With this, I want you to come up with possible demo topics that you might be thinking of. Bring this, whether you've decided what your demo topic is or not, bring this. And if we have time, I have another brainstorming session for us. By upcoming Wednesday, you will have your demo topic solidified. I do not care. Time is of the essence, especially with our 14-week course, we lose out on 2 weeks. By Wednesday, you are going to have your demo topic chosen. So this is your time to brainstorm before class. And then we will discuss in class those topics. Okay. To review, we talked about organizing and outlining your speech. We talked about visual aids, and I assign the demo speech. So your assignments, per usual, we got our quiz number 3 that you'll do right after this lecture. I assigned the out of class challenge, which is the brainstorming topic sheet. Make sure you bring that to class on Wednesday. Then for your demo speech when prepping, this is kind of how I would, divide it out. But to begin, have a topic selected, bring some to class, bring a couple options. Use that brainstorming sheet to, pick some options, see what you're good at, because it might help you even think about something you didn't even think about, right? So, have 3 topics chosen, bring them to class on Wednesday. We'll keep going. And then I want to introduce some out of class challenges you can do, which will be available for each speech that we do. So these will be options for other times. Can this go away, please? There we go. Okay. So if we go to week 2, we have our out of class challenges. So scheduling a coaching session with me. You will have options for your info, your pitch, and the persuasive as well. So this is basically a 30-minute session, coaching session, where I can help you in any sort of way. There's going to be 2 options, right? You either will be doing a planning session or a delivery session. When you contact me, right, email me to schedule your day and time, you need to make it clear which one it is, right? Planning is like I'm helping you with your outline, we're building it out together. You're asking questions of, I don't know how to do an attention getter, or what's a good transition, or how could I build out this main point, right? That's what we'll be doing. Your delivery session is you have written out your whole outline and you are ready to do it. So I'm giving you feedback on your nonverbals, your voice, all your delivery. Makes sense? So these are the times I'll be on campus for an in-person. So Mondays 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then Wednesdays 9:30 a.m. to 8 to 10:15-ish, right? So right before class starts. And then this is after my Wednesday class, which is 2:50 to 4 p.m. Got it? So I will say for delivery, 100% needs to be in person, where if you're doing planning and these times don't work for you, we could do a Zoom. I'm very open to that for sure. But email me, give me, oh gosh, a day minimum, 24 hours. If you're emailing me like 2 hours, 10 p.m. the night before, like at least give me time to put in my calendar, get my plan together, right? Because I'm commuting from the Woodlands, so just give me time, right? So that is one of our out of class challenges. Our other one is the practice log demo. So this is, right, you've done your outline, it's ready to go. And this will be kind of a nice way to help you practice. So what I want you to do is on a piece of paper, I want this to be in your handwriting, right? You're going to have 5 different things. Like, so these are your different practice things I want you to do, and I kind of want you to do them in order. So each time you practice, I want you to list on a piece of paper which one you did, what day you completed it. I want you to initial beside it and write one thing you felt good about what you just did, how you went over it, what you practiced, and one thing you'd like to work on for next time. So, first one, right? You practice just sitting down, read it over yourself, right? Okay, what did you do good? What do you want to work on? Next, then, while standing, read your speech out loud with limited gestures. Standing, then stand with visuals and limited note use. So I want you to do the speech while standing, using your visual aids, using your notes as little as possible. Next, find someone to do your speech in front of. This could be, I want you to do standing, limited note use, eye contact, visuals, etc. Get feedback from them on what you could work on. Then lastly, after applying the feedback, do it again and see if or you do it again as if it were the official day. Visuals, limited note use, standing, projecting, eye contact, etc. So it's building on top of each other. Got it? Then once you got it, then you submit it on here and you get those out of class points. Again, remember we talked about your speech or your challenges is a combination of in class, out of class. You do not have to do these. If you don't want to, you don't have to, right? You have more opportunities coming forward. We have the in-class challenges. This is just if you want to stay on top of it, get them done. Boom. There's 3 there, right? Okay, crew. Write down any questions. Email me if you have any questions. But yeah, that's all I have. Excited to see you on Wednesday. Excited to clear up. We're going to talk more about your demo speech, what to expect. We're going to do our speech order, so make sure you are there so you can pick what day, or well, not what day, but what when you want to go. So yeah, we'll get more into that. Y'all have a good week. I will see you on Wednesday.